Hello Vols, welcome back to the second half of our bathtub swim lesson in water safety series. In this week's water safety topic, we will be once again going over COVID-specific water safety. And in this week's bathtub swim lesson, we will begin to learn how to float on our stomachs. As a reminder, you can't learn to swim until you can float. Let's get swimming. For the second half of our bathtub swim lesson and water safety series, we will be starting with new information in our swim lessons, then reviewing safety topics from the first 4 weeks: COVID-specific pool safety, lake safety, then ocean safety. In today's bathtub swim lesson, we will be going over how to float and glide on our stomachs, preferably with our eyes in. Let's start by talking about front float. The goal is for them to be able to put their arms out like a star, legs out like a star, and take a big breath and go eyes in, and let their legs come off the ground and then freeze like ice. They will start by doing this first assisted without their eyes in the water, then assisted with their eyes in, progressing to assisted only to get them started, and then fully unassisted. Start with 1 second, eyes in, and then work your way up to 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and then 10 plus seconds. I always make them do this at least once on the first day, and then 3 times or more every time after. Next, let's talk about front glide. This is to help them feel what it is like to float and move at the same time and build their confidence before adding in kicking or arms. They can do this between 2 adults, to the steps, or even to 1 adult. They will do this first fully assisted, then assisted by only a push, and then finally unassisted. You might find that they naturally start kicking, which is fine. Try to encourage them to stay as still as possible though, so that you know they have control of their legs. Always remember to tell them to float first and then glide. Once again, we will be starting with Polly, our 20-month-old parent-child age swimmer. With Polly, each day we have her practice the front float body position in her puddle jumper, where she feels supported and more in control. Arms out and legs out like a star. Then we move on to her in the front float position, assisted by me. Here, I try to get her to blow bubbles and then go eyes in. Polly has come a long way. Watch when her eyes go in. She holds her breath, opens her eyes, gets to the steps, blows her bubbles, stands up, all unassisted. This is also a really great way for her to practice her front glide, where we are just helping her to find her buoyancy. You will notice I actually push her down underwater so she feels her buoyancy bring her back up to the surface. Next we have Miles, our 3-year-old preschool age swimmer. For Miles, you will notice he starts assisted in a really great front float body position. This position makes floating much easier. It is important to note the body is like a teeter-totter, and if the eyes come up, the feet will drop down and you will sink. But if the eyes go in, it is much easier to keep your feet up and float. For Miles, he started assisted, then I let go when I felt him floating. He progressed to doing this even on his own, unassisted. For Miles' front glide, you will see it is hard for him to move forward without using his hands. He is ready to start adding in his arms and legs. Finally, we have Jane, our 6-year-old school-age swimmer. Jane is already floating unassisted. For her, it is important to practice floating and gliding for longer and longer so that she can build up her lung capacity so that she can swim further when we add in her arms and legs. For Jane's front glide, we are working on getting her into a more streamlined position. Today in our water safety topic, we will be discussing how to be prepared and be safe around the pool this summer, taking COVID-19 into consideration. Tip number 1, come prepared. You'll be your safest when you bring your own mask, bring your own chair, and bring your own toys and equipment. Tip number 2, don't swim in a crowded pool. This is an example of a pool that is too crowded. Don't swim in a pool that looks like this. In order to maintain social distance at the pool, you should wear a mask while on deck, and you should maintain proper social distancing of 6 feet in the water as well as 6 feet on the pool deck. Pools have also lowered their max bather load in order to help with social distancing. Tip number 3, understand the new normal, especially for your pool. Know what your pool's new adjusted bather load is. Know if your pool has any adjusted swim times. Know what your pool's bathroom availability looks like. Do you have to make a reservation for lap swim? Do you have to make a reservation for overall swim time? Know if your swim times have been adjusted for at-risk populations. Be prepared to wear a mask on deck. Be prepared to socially distance 6 feet in the water. Be prepared to socially distance 6 feet on deck. Know where the locations of any hand sanitizing and hand washing stations might be. Tip number 4, families who play together have safe fun together. Not only does playing in the pool as a family unit lower the drowning risk, but if you limit play to the family unit, you will also lower your family's risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19. Tip number 5, know where the dangers lie. In a pool with well-maintained water chemistry, the pool itself is relatively safe to swim in. You might want to check with staff to ensure proper chemical levels before getting into the pool, just to be safe. The danger lies in community spaces like the pool deck, eating areas, and bathrooms, as well as any equipment that is designated as community use. Also, please know that the most dangerous thing about swimming is still the drowning risk. Join us again next week for Lesson 6, where we will learn how to kick properly.